why you're thinking of. You've had me at a low. I don't understand why you're thinking of. You've had me at a low. I don't understand why you're thinking of.
Welcome back, Carter, to part 2 of our podcast on Whose House, Who Leads the Family. And so we had a good conversation last time. We think there's some more you can get out of it. The last question and the last part we think is pretty heavy, and we think that it needs to be talked about. We need to address the issues. So problems that we refuse to talk about are solutions we never get. So with nothing else left to say, let's get ready, get set, let's go.
What does it take to lead the house?
So I'm shooting on Kobe today again, y'all. But anyway, so there's a couple things that I feel like you need to lead a house. Y'all know Kobe is not really my guy, but he shoot a lot. So I'm Kobe today. I think it takes God. Something that I think is very big for men, especially when you lead in the house, is integrity. I think men's integrity is one of the strongest, and I think women really see that kind of early on. And I think that's what helps create a safe space. Even though I might not agree with this dude, he do stand on what he say. You know what I'm saying? So I think that creates a safe space. Vision. He has to have something. He has to see something bigger than him. Because this is the thing that I get with these women who want me and the guy already got money. What does he need you for? So you telling you reducing your value down to humping and cleaning my house. That's what you reduce your value to. So if you come, I need help. So if you not the help, I don't need to meet you. Y'all see how I did that?
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, don't reduce your value to. I mean, I desire to provide for my wife as much as I can, but you shouldn't desire to have, because once a man if the designer woman is the help and they don't see a way that she's helping, then he reduced the value of the woman that you're around. So you have to be careful with that thing. So sober-mindedness is something else that I think that's good for a leader. Sober-mindedness means to me that you understand the mission or the vision. You understand that, and you're sober-minded. Mean you emotionally mature, which is the next thing I add. That means your emotions don't mean you don't have emotions, but they don't always lead you. So sober-mindedness is something that you have is really like creating your value system, your core beliefs, what you stand on. And it's easier for a woman to accept who you are and lead as a man if she understands that much about you. If you as emotional as she is, she gonna have you all over the place. They're gonna be sometimes like, look, baby, you calm down. You doing too much. They're gonna be sometimes she need to hear that. I think women, we all aware that women have emotions and men have ego. Sometimes that woman checks that man's ego because he's like, look, babe, we can do X, Y, Z. So like, how she figure that out so fast? Because she's smart. The average woman is smarter than a man. And a man has to be smart enough to realize that. And I'm not pandering to women about that. I do believe that on average, women are smarter than men, but women are more emotional. So sometimes, one of the things I always say about discernment, the biggest cloud on discernment is emotions. You can't. I don't care how good your gift for discernment is or how good your discerning is. Emotions cloud that, and so to me, I think sober-mindedness is part of emotional maturity, and that's what it takes to be a good leader. Patience. You have to have patience. You have to have pure intent and motives, meaning that if I'm leading because I desire to see you become the best version of you, regardless of whatever I'm leading. That's my thing. To see a way for you to become the best version of who you are. So if I don't see me clearly, I won't see you clearly. I won't see my kids clearly. I always want to mold my kids into the little me's. I always want to mold my wife into a little version of me, a juniors. We always want all these juniors. And when we should be really looking at people and to pull out what's in them, to give them their identity, not my identity. So that's what I think it takes to lead a house.
That's good stuff. Ooh. You have anything to add, Anisha?
I just loved it. I just loved what I heard.
Well, drum roll. Y'all ready? Drum roll for the question you have been waiting for. All right. Are you ready? Ready as
I'm gonna get.
All right. Okay. With the increase of women running homes, is it fair to say that society problems are put on them? Or is it because there is a lack of male influence?
So y'all want me to jump? Or y'all got it?
Let me start.
Go ahead.
You're going to take 30 minutes by yourself. So let me just say my little piece. I think there has to be accountability on both parts. And the reason I say that personally for me, when I read that question, I just thought back to my own childhood and my own upbringing. And when I was sitting here looking at this question again, since I've been at this table, I wondered, my mom was a single mother. However, she came from a 2-parent household. Mm-hmm. To my knowledge, my grandfather was a provider for his family. And he was a good husband to my grandmother. That's the only thing I've ever heard. So now my question is, I know we say sometimes that we as we say this as Black women, we don't get groomed to be wives. So I'm wondering why. Not every person, like my mom, for example, not every person came from a single parent household. So if there are people out here who have been raised in healthy 2-parent households, why is that not enforced more? Or why is that not embedded in us more? Like, we're groomed for education and work. We're just not really groomed for marriage. Whereas in other cultures, that's a significant part of their upbringing. They're groomed for marriage. I don't know. It just makes me wonder. And then to I ain't trying to go all negative here, but
no, go ahead. Let's shoot.
Women, we got to take accountability for what our part in this, because we let men treat us any kind of way. We give away our bodies freely. We have these children and we keep having them, knowing how hard it is, knowing the struggle. We celebrate, being single mothers, and we shouldn't. That's just my personal opinion. I'm a single mother. Don't get me wrong. I just told you I had a single mother, but I think it's overhyped and over celebrated. Mm-hmm. I guess it kind of goes back to the whole women's lib thing and the women's suffrage and all that. I get all that. We want rights. We needed rights. We got them. But I think that took away from the family dynamic and the fact that we as women need and want men. Well, I do. If you don't, then that's on you. I mean, that's on you, but that's not what I want for me. And I want us to get to a place as women, Black, white, blue, green, I don't care. I want us to get back to a place where we acknowledge that we really want and need men in our lives and in our families. As for the men who are absent, Absolutely, they have to be held accountable too, because why are you out here creating families in 5 different homes, knowing you can't afford to, and knowing not you can't afford to physically, financially, or mentally to have families in 5 different homes? It's just not going to work. So the accountability is on both the woman and the man. That's just my opinion.
Totally agree.
I agree.
I think so. I'm gonna start from early on.
Aren't you supposed to go last?
Oh, Emma, go ahead, shoot. Y'all know me. I told you I'm cozy today.
Because you got a lot to say.
I
So,
do.
hold on. Let me get my 2 cents real quick.
I do.
Right. So for me, I'm accountable for my choices. Some of the bad decisions that I made. I should have researched more. I should have looked into this thing a little bit more, you know. And I think it's important, especially if you're choosing a mate who are a person you're going to have a child with. Choose wisely. If that person wasn't taking care of some other children, most likely they're not going to take care of the one that you have. So for me, the question, there's a part of responsibility that I have, but what I will not do is take on his responsibility. And I think a lot of women, sometimes we overcompensate for when fathers aren't there. I refuse to do that. You know, now I'm not ignorant of the fact that by the father being out of place, that it creates some type of trauma. And what I will not do, I'll make adjustments, but I won't make excuses.
Right.
So definitely, I just want to say single parenting, we weren't designed to be single parents. So single parenting is harder. Parenting is hard, whether you have 2 parents or 1 parent, especially living in this technology world now. It's complicated, but it was designed for us to have a father and a mother in a household. So, again, I take responsibility for some of my choices that I made in life. But every day I choose to show up for my children. And it looks different for each one because they're all different human beings. And one thing that by being a single parent, I've had, my prayer life has really increased. Ooh, I know Jesus is greater because of that. But I often think, especially early on when my boys were smaller, I often think, gosh, this would have been so much easier if I had, especially financially, because I struggled early on. God knows I struggled. Y'all better eat at your grandparents' house because all at my house was some cereal and some milk, So I thank God for that, and even though, and I often laugh, I thought about this, my children really didn't never think they were poor, but we lived in poverty, I just made it look good to them, but I was struggling. There was times my account was in the negative, or there was 35 cents in my checking account, and that's working 2 jobs, and that wasn't God's plan, for me to do all that, but that's what I had to do. For me, I know God better. I know him to be Jehovah Rapha. I know him to be God, the God that provides. When you have to pray on them bills, hey, and you're balancing, it wasn't supposed to be like that. But I'm grateful to have went through the jungle. I call it the jungle because it was deep. I was in that thing. It was a whole struggle, and I laugh because, like, my younger son really don't think he was ever poor, and I'm like, he was like, I always had. It was just the blessings of God. Like when I look back to especially living down on Kennedy Home Road in that trailer, it was nothing but the grace of God that we made it. And yes, they never know lights to get cut off. But I will say this, I even remember a time you know, leaving social service office and actually being in tears because I couldn't get assistance. According to them, I made too much money. And I literally needed the help. Now, I know y'all say, but I was prideful back then. You know, I had 2 kids and I was like, I got to stand on my feet. I won't about asking my daddy for no money. And yes, he would have gave it to me. I know he would have gave it to me, but I'm like, I made these kids. It wasn't his job to take care of them. But I remember being turned down. I needed my lights paid. And I was like, oh my God, my light bill is going to get cut off. You know, and y'all always hear me say, it's really big for me to not be in no dark. Right. That came from a place of hurt, you know. And I remember going to
that whole single parent thing. One day we're gonna have a whole narrative on the trauma of being a single parent.
We should.
That's something most people ain't ready for, but there's trauma attached to that as well.
There is. I mean, I think, and maybe we'll do that next because I think it ties into the leadership of the home and what it looks like and how women feel being a single parent. And they also single parent men, but it's more the percentage is higher.
We want to include them in that narrative, absolutely.
The percentage is higher for a single mom. So I would, till Frances come back, we'll let her get started whenever she come back. But what I will say in the meantime is, I want to reiterate the question. So what, with the increase of women running homes, is it fair to say that society problems are on them? Or is it due to a lack of male influence? So I would go back to kind of like the beginning. Frances, you back? Do you want to finish, love? You froze up right in the middle of talking about being a single parent.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I was just going to start talking.
And if I get kicked off this time, I'm not joining back again. Just so you know.
No.
But I was just thinking about that. You know, for me, struggling has brought me close to God. It has increased my prayer life. And there's a song by CeCe Winans that says the goodness of God. All my life, I've known him to be faithful, even when I wasn't faithful to God. And now, again, my story wasn't ideal because I had children, a son out of wedlock, 2 of my children through marriage, but it wasn't ideal. But for me, it brought me closer to God in the struggle and the pain and the depth. But I think, you know, a lot of the times we blame women or whatever. I think both parties have fault in it. Some women need to choose wisely and better. And sometimes before we're healed, we leap into the bed with people and we create children that should have never been created. Well, I'm not going to say shouldn't have been because God had always a plan and a purpose. But
should have been
sometimes right. We do our choice and sometimes not God's choice. So that's one thing that I would have desired. I desire for my children to do God's choice, to choose it God's way and not just be picking any Tom, Dick, and Harry or Sue or Keisha.
Yeah. Watch some Keishas.
But that's about it.
Oh my God, please. Please don't play. We're not doing that here. Oh my God.
That's just a common name. I'm sorry. It's like, don't trust them, Tyrone. But anyway, but I wanted to kind of start. One of the things that I think is beginning. If you go back and you think about men, what are men? Men are taught that it's okay and we should go out and sow our royal oats. Women basically are taught that, well, I ain't gonna say in this day and time, it's a little bit different because even the mamas tell their daughters don't go out and have fun, enjoy life. But I think that's wrong too. But you know, women are used to be taught to prepare to be wives. So women look forward to getting married men look forward to sowing raw oats. So what has happened is since men was taught that you can only sow oats with a well, you should only sow oats with a woman, right? And so now you have, because I believe the feminist movement was a trick of the enemy, and some man talked to some woman, she got scorned, and she changed the way things were seen. Because most men they want to have fun with women, with fun girls, I'm gonna call them, instead of 304s. 304 is the number for HOE.
We know. I know.
And so they want to have that. But this is the crazy thing about that. Most men want to sow their oats with fun girls, but they want to marry a good woman. So they trick you out here to do things they want to do with you until they're ready to settle down, and then they want the good woman, or what they call the woman who ain't something around. So you have.
It's the same for the women. Some of the women too. Same way. You done went out here and gave yourself away to all these men folk and wore out, and then you come. Here you go. Now you want to get married and settle down.
It's backwards though. But
yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is, it has never been proven that stuff works. Because what happens is you're never satisfied, and then you get to the point that you done experience all this stuff, and you have all these things in your mind, and you can't declutter your mind. Your soul is need to be rehabbed because you've been experiencing too much stuff that you never was intending to experience. And so I think in order to get to the question is, I think that, and then what has happened is, that you do this, these men never intended to really they didn't really desire to be with you in a relationship. It just come through sex. And so now when you have kids, the responsibility, because they didn't know what it was to be a man. You know, one of the worst things I think that has happened in this movement that we're in now is the over mothering of men. Men are not meant, they're meant to be nurtured, but nurtured to be independent and nurtured to lead. That over nurturing, what it does for a man is he coddles them. You shouldn't coddle boys all the time, because then they're going to expect it. So then they're looking for their mama and the woman they with. And so till they find a woman, and that's what it does is, because when you coddle men, especially as a woman, they think a woman's supposed to take care of them. My daddy didn't allow my mom to cuddle me. He's like, look, boy, you're going to be a man. You're going to be leading somebody's house. Get your butt out there and cut the grass. Get your butt out there and take out the trash.
Let me ask something real quick, because
go ahead.
You just said something very, very important. You know, I work in a detox facility, and one thing I see is mama boys come through there every single week. Mm-hmm. The amount of men that got to call their mamas before they call wives or significant others. You got a whole wife, but you got to call your mama first. Mm-hmm. You got to call your mama. Should you do this? Should you do that? Should you do that? Make the decision with your mama. Then call your wife and say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this." There is something terribly wrong and backwards about that, and I see it every single week. And I just, it's their business, it's their life to do. But I just be thinking like, dude, you like a mama's boy. You should be single. You don't need anybody, because you still attached to the nipple.
Yeah. And let me say this. What's one of the things that women hate most in men, but they create the environment of, women hate mama boys. Mm-hmm. They just do. I'm not yet met a woman who really want to be in a relationship with somebody that think they see as a mama's boy. As soon as they see that in you, they ain't really studying you that much, because they know. But that comes from being over mothered. And so they look for their mama, because their mama has made every decision they needed in their life. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with getting some talking to your mom or your parent. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, you're leading that house. And at the end of the day, I have a wife. I need to be able to trust my wife to talk to her. You know, I shouldn't be going to my mama and getting her to make decisions, or making her stroke my ego, or because I feel bad, and because, you know, my wife ain't really listening to me. Grow up. You can't be over. That's why I don't like when I see women do that. It gets on my nerves. Mm-hmm. Because look, and I'm not saying it's not their job. I will say that it is not a woman's job to teach a man how to be a man. But what I do know, if we're in the situation, is you know what you expect from the man that you with. You show that boy that way. There ain't no way in the world you got a 12-year-old son and you getting out your car and you pumping gas. I can't stand it.
Right.
Bigger than your mama is. You sitting in the car playing on the phone or playing the car radio while she doing no. And then what you teaching him is he's learning that's what he's supposed to do for a woman. Get the groceries out of the car. Even if you can do it. Boy, go get them groceries. Take the trash out. Go take the trash out. You teaching him, that men do. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's one of the things that I see with the increasing problems in society is the lack of men being men. That boy is not your husband. He's not your boyfriend. Teach that young man how to be a man by allowing him to do. Teach him everything they do need to be around men and fathers. We got to do better.
You can teach some basic stuff though, right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's just simple. But me as a father, even though I don't live with my daughters, I spend as much time as I can with my daughters because they need to know what it is to be around a man. Am I perfect at it? And not at all. And I don't think nobody being a perfect parent, and holding yourself accountable for some of the things that your kids do once they get old enough to make their own decisions. All of it can't be your fault. You know what I'm saying? I think as parents, we beat ourselves up because our kids lack. And I think sometimes we overcorrect, and we feel sorry for our kids. But when you feel sorry for your children, you raise them different. And then they have an expectation of the world to treat them a certain way. And they don't never get that. They're not going to get that from the world. And so then they start having anxiety, start becoming depressed because it's not what they're used to. That's why I think sometimes it's good to have friction. Sometimes it's good to make your kids think, see how they make decisions instead of always trying to make them make the decision that you want them to make because they get used to it. They either depend on you or they're going to find a woman that's like you that make all the decisions for them, especially with men. And so I know we talked about a whole lot, and I guess Frances is going to stay true to her word today. She said she will.
Yeah, she said we can wrap this thing
up. But I don't want to I want to make sure that I won't just pick on women. But I do think what she said earlier, you need to be accountable for what you do and what you pick and what you choose. If a man has not proven to take care of the kids he has, why would you want to be in a relationship with?
And and it's crazy because you see it on social media all the time. You have a baby mama, and I know I'm not with the getting on social media bashing baby daddies, but you'll have a baby mama say that very thing, and then these girls will jump up here and defend these guys. But you know that man has a child that you don't ever see. No. You don't never see the child. He don't never call the child, nothing. And then you'll be saying the baby mama bitter. No, she's trying to tell you the truth. She might not be doing it in the healthiest way. Right. But she's trying to warn you that this is what you're going to experience too. And then for some odd reason, we women think that, he'll change for us, or he'll change, or he'll do different if I have one with him. Then you end up in the same darn boat.
Yeah. And it's because
it would have been just easy to go talk to the baby mama and say, hey, look, what are you trying to say? Like, what is your experience? You know what I'm saying? I appreciate the fact that you're trying to tell me something. And I get it. Sometimes you got to learn the hard way and you got to fall and bump your darn head. But it's easier to have a conversation with somebody than it is to end up a single mother yourself and be struggling.
And then you be one-on-one on Facebook with the post.
Yeah. Then you trying to warn somebody else when you could just listen to the other baby mama. Yeah.
Well, I try to, one thing I try to teach is like, okay, me and my children's mother is not together. But what I do know is I'm in my children's life. People that know me see it, even though wherever we at, which we in a good place, and in our relationship between her and the mama, she can't never say that I don't take care of my kids. That would be something she
Right.
can't say. She can't say I don't spend time with them. You know, that I don't care about my kids because my kids didn't ask to be here. They're here. They're my responsibility. And so I think when I was talking about when women got little boys, you need to teach each other some responsibility. Because if you don't teach them, they don't, even the responsibility of taking out, even though you might have to say something to them. Look, I'm not taking that trash out. That's your responsibility. Take it out. Mom, you can take it. Yep, I sure can, but it's your responsibility. You take.
Absolutely.
Teaching them to be accountable for something, because when men not accountable, they mess up other women's lives. And so I would not want my son, and he would do it, go out and mess up somebody else's life because I didn't teach him how to be accountable as a man. And so I think that's how you should look at it. And I think older women should teach the younger women, you know, what to look for, what not to do, because you've experienced that. I mean, that's scripture to teach the younger women. We out the older women.
We got to get back to that. We got to get some women to groom us.
Yeah,
for motherhood and to be wives.
Yeah,
you got to.
It's ridiculous because if you think about the narrative of that, what are we seeing now? We're seeing too many broken homes. We're seeing too many fathers out the house because, you know, it's shown a lot. It's seen the man grow up used to only having his mama in the house, you know, and so and it becomes normal. So they don't know what their responsibilities are. I always had responsibility. Even when I remember I was 19, I was responsible for doing the dishes, for keeping my rooms. I had a responsibility. And if you train them up, at least they won't depart from it. Even if your kids go out and do something crazy, like they understand they need to work. They're like, well, look, I said my mom need to work. You know, and I think even with boys, they sometimes that you need to let them fall, you know, so they can see what it is and see that they're able to get back up. If you catch them every time they fall, that's the expectation from women. If I fall, I ain't got to worry about it. My mama got it. So when I get a wife, I ain't got to worry about it. When I fall, she got it. No, son, you are designed for this. And I've just had a conversation with one of my younger cousins about it. Like, look, your responsibility to take care of what you make. That's your responsibility. Whatever they doing is not your responsibility. You know, so we have to learn as men that what we're supposed to really take care of. And I think the more that men grow into who they are and get in their right place, because I do think a lot of it is the lack of a male influence. Because my dad didn't allow us to do me, because I was oldest and my mom and dad split it up when I was a teenager, but there were things he didn't allow me to do. And that helped me become who I am, the working part. My daddy always tell me, man, don't work, don't eat. He tell me that all the time. You know, at 10, he was out there showing me how to cut the grass, and my job was to cut the grass. And every time I didn't do it right, he made me go right back out there till I got it right. And that stuff has stayed with me through my whole life. You know what I'm saying? And so I think, you know, the men are needed. And men, we got to do better. Mamas quit over mothering these boys because he's going to be the man of somebody's house one day, hopefully. And he's going to always depend on you. This is what I would say. Women hate mama boys, but they love to raise mama boys. You know, so it's like you got to pick and choose. Like, you know goodness well, you don't want a man that everything he do, he got to ask his mama, is it right before he do it? And you his whole wife. And he got to go check with his mama to see if something right. That's foolishness. I'm not saying neglect counsel, but a man that can't make a decision on something is dangerous.
And his mama should know more about your household than you do.
That's it. As
his wife.
I don't know, man. It's crazy. You know, I think we just can do better. And I think we do need to do the podcast about single parents and what it does to people who have to experience it from the male and female perspective, especially. I think there's stuff that we can be learning. I think there's stuff that we can teach people. I think we should teach the young girls what it is to be a woman and what it is to find a man, not based off what you think you like. I mean, I was telling somebody this morning that one of the things we look for love without actually knowing what love is.
Right.
The guy gave me this: love cherishes, love challenges, and love corrects. The only thing we look for in love is the cherishing. But if I truly love you, I will correct you. If I truly love you, I would challenge you to be a better person. You know what I'm saying? And so until we get that whole definition, we will always pick wrong. And so we want you to pick better. We want you to do better. We want you to become better people. And we want you, if you're older, no matter where you at, if you in your 40s and you're around some 20-year-olds, talk to them. Men, talk to the young boys and quit telling them and start telling them it's not healthy for you not to be around your kids. It's not healthy for you to be around, bouncing around, making all these babies that you can't support.
It's not healthy to be hunting 1,000 different women.
It is not. Stop being Nick Cannon.
Do you want 1,000 different men hunting your daughter?
And don't get me started on that, because this is what I tell. and look, men that call women the B word a lot, you have to watch them, because this is the thing. They know they don't want. I know boys who got in fights for somebody disrespecting their mama.
Mm-hmm.
I know men who have daughters that wouldn't like them to date another man like them.
Just
you
like
know
me.
what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so if they know all that, that means they know what to do. They know what they should be doing. They just don't want to do it. And so you have to require better of these men. Look, a man wants a woman. And so when he wants a woman, he gonna do what it takes to get the woman that he wants. And so you don't have to force them. You just have to have some requirements, and they'll fall in place. And just have standards. And men do better. It is not about you going around sowing your world oats, because sowing them oats can get you in something that you can't get out of. And so we have to do better. We have to be sober-minded, make these wise decisions, and quit making so many decisions based on how we feel. And so I'll just wrap the podcast up with that. You have some final thoughts?
Yeah, just to the ladies, I want you guys to get out of that mindset that you don't need anybody. You're not designed to do it all by yourself, and you shouldn't have to. Mm-hmm. You got to do some healing for you to realize that, though. And I realize, that's what it takes. A lot of people aren't healed. They're still so scorned and so bitter. And you may not want it, but you need it.
Yeah. And I will. You said that, made me think about it. It's like, so you have this narrative, and women will speak to this thing, and they will say, "I can do everything a man do." Maybe, but I never said I want to do everything a woman can do. So it's like, do you know your identity? Like, I don't, even though I take care of my kids, and when I have them, most time they with me and they girls, I don't want to do everything that a woman do. I just don't. I want to be an adult and be able to take care of what I got to, but I don't want to do everything. You don't hear me say that. And sometimes I think we box ourselves in with our words, like being independent. So you being independent means you don't want nobody. No, just say I can take care of myself. Because when you say you independent, I think you put yourself in a box. And so you frame your life with your words. I'm independent. I don't need a man. I don't want a man. I can do everything a man can do. And so you start looking like a man. You know what I'm saying? And so you might not physically, but mentally you boxing yourself into the box of a man. And so you have this mindset, and then no man's going to be able to provide what you need because you think you're doing it yourself. So you have to be careful with what you say.
Yeah. Again, I'm tired of being a strong black man.
I feel you. And I like the way you encase that in the words.
Somebody else can have that. I don't want it.
But that's a good way to say that. Like,
y'all can have that. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't.
You're not supposed to have it, and I don't blame you. Because like I said, I think you only find what you're looking for. And if you thinking you can do it all, you're not going to find somebody that can be who you truly need. Because a lot of that, and that's what I was going to say one time, and I close with this, a lot of that stuff comes from a scorn and a traumatic perspective. We have to watch how we see, how we have to watch on what lenses we look through when we look at our lives. You have to change that. You have to heal. When you heal, you see stuff different. I see love different because I've healed in a lot of different areas. I always seen love as emotional myself until I got to my instruction manual. And that ain't what they say about love. Always agreeing with me is not love. You know what I'm saying? Never challenging me is not love. Correcting me is not saying that I'm a bad person. That just means I need to grow in an area. So, until you can start seeing love from the perspective of the instruction manual, then you got some healing to do. And then even when you get in relationships, and Francis said earlier, they still an area of growth because you live a little bit longer because you usually get married younger. But when you get married in your late 30s and 40s, you've been a whole person your whole life doing different things. So you have to have that grace period to grow.
You have to have to grow and adjust. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so y'all, we can go on this thing forever, but we want to end it right where we at. I think it's been a great podcast. If I may say so myself, I think it's some things that we need to have a discussion. Maybe we do a panel talk on something like this one time. I love to see other people's perspective on things. So we hope today, even though our voice of reason has abandoned us, we hope that we have said something today. She gonna get
yes.
So I hope we have said something today that has really piqued your interest or given you some more perspectives on how to think about things. Please comment in the post. We like that. We'd like for you to be a part of the podcast if you like to, because we love to have discussions and we love guests. So I guess we have nothing else left to say. So in our closing, we'd like to wish you peace out and be well.